Hello everyone and welcome to today's reading. So if you've been wondering whether somebody has been thinking about you, then let's see what the cards have to say. As always, remember that tarot reflects the current energy surrounding a situation. So it isn't about certainty or taking away anyone's free will. Instead, think of it as a snapshot of what's happening energetically at this moment. So today we're looking at 8 tarot cards first, followed by 3 oracle cards that will provide extra clarity and guidance. So let's dive in. So the first energy coming through is the King of Swords, and immediately I feel like this is a person that has been trying to think with their head instead of their heart. Yes, they're thinking about you, but they're analysing the connection rather than allowing themselves to simply feel it. This is someone who has been replaying conversations, reflecting on what has happened between you both and wondering whether they made the right decision. The King of Swords isn't emotionally detached because they don't care. They're emotionally controlled because they care enough to protect themselves. So some of you may even feel that this person has become distant or quiet. But internally, they are thinking. They're processing and they're trying to make sense of everything. And then the next card is the World, and this tells me that this connection has changed them in some way. So whether the relationship ended recently or years ago, there's a feeling that you completed an important chapter in their life. And what's interesting is that the World can represent endings, but it can also represent unfinished emotional cycles. So sometimes someone walks away physically while their soul is still trying to understand what happened. And for many of you, I feel like this person's reached a point where they're looking back at the connection from a much more wiser perspective. They are seeing things that they couldn't see before. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune, and this is one of my favourite cards to see in this type of reading because it tells me that fate is still moving, so nothing is stagnant. The person may suddenly find themselves thinking about you pretty unexpectedly. Maybe your song comes on the radio, or they drive past somewhere that reminds them of you. They could even start dreaming about you. But the wheel often represents those moments where life unexpectedly brings somebody back into our thoughts. It's almost like the universe keeps reminding them of this connection. I also feel like timing is important. So things may not have aligned before, but the energy around this connection is definitely shifting. Now we come to the emotional heart of the reading, and we have the 5 of Cups, and this speaks about regret, disappointment, sadness, and looking back, wishing that something had happened differently. For some of you, I generally feel this person regrets the things they said, or others, they may regret what they never said. I feel like sometimes the hardest words are the ones that are left unspoken. What's interesting about this card is that the figure focuses on the spilt cups, while 2 cups remain standing behind them. So this tells me that your person may be so focused on what went wrong that they're struggling to see what is still possible. This card definitely says yes, they are thinking of you, but many of those thoughts carry an emotional weight. Then we have the Page of Pentacles, and this feels very different. So this is somebody beginning to think practically instead of simply wondering. They're beginning to ask themselves, what could I actually do? And this isn't necessarily a dramatic declaration of love, but it is somebody considering whether they should reach out or not, whether they should rebuild trust, or whether they should start again from a stronger foundation. It's a slow-moving energy, but it feels genuine. And then we move on to the Knight of Cups, and this is beautiful because now we move from thinking to feeling. So the Knight of Cups is one of the most romantic cards in the tarot. It tells me that this person still has feelings that haven't completely disappeared. So some of you may receive communication, Others may simply know intuitively that this person still carries love and affection for you. The night also reminds us that emotions often move slower than we'd like. This person may be rehearsing conversations in their mind long before they ever say anything out loud. And then we have the obstacle. So we move to the Five of Swords, and this tells me that pride, ego, miscommunication, or unresolved conflict still exists. This person may be worried about rejection. They may wonder if too much damage has already been done. Or perhaps both of you walked away feeling misunderstood. I don't necessarily see this as somebody wanting conflict. I see this as someone afraid of creating even more conflict, and that's why they hesitate. But then we finish the tarot with the Ace of Wands, and what a powerful ending. So after all that thinking, the regret, the hesitation, comes possibility. The Ace of Wands represents new energy, fresh beginnings, and a renewed passion. A spark that hasn't gone out. So whether this becomes a reconciliation, a conversation, or simply emotional closure, the energy between you isn't finished. There is still life here and there's still potential. So now we're going to pick 3 oracle cards because they normally tie the whole reading together, and they could maybe show up something that hasn't already been seen. So first of all, you have the Serpent's Coil, and this is a card about healing, rebirth, protection. This immediately confirms what we've already seen. So both people are healing. This connection has transformed both of you. So the serpent sheds its skin, and I feel like Spirit is saying this connection cannot move forward in the same way that it existed before. Something has to change first. I think healing needs to come before the reunion. And then we move on to the Wise Owl, which is all about wisdom, knowledge, and perspective. And I love this because this confirms that somebody is beginning to see the truth. Now, whether that is you or them, there's a new understanding arriving. Lessons have been learned, and immaturity is giving way to more wisdom. This person may now understand your perspective in ways which they just simply couldn't do before, and I feel like sometimes distance can create that clarity needed. And then lastly, we move on to the Hidden Garden. Now, this is my favourite card in the entire reading because it talks about inner beauty, hidden talents, and feels deeply personal. So I feel like Spirit is reminding you to not lose yourself while wondering about someone else's thoughts. Your value has never depended on whether somebody messages you, whether they choose you, or whether they return. The Hidden Garden says continue growing, continue becoming, because the more of you that you nurture yourself, the more naturally the right people will be drawn towards your energy. So when I take a step back and I look at this entire spread, I absolutely feel like this person thinks about you, but not in a casual way. So this feels more reflective. I feel like they've been analysing, they've been remembering, and feeling regret. I feel like they're trying to understand what happened. I also feel like many of them are slowly moving towards emotional honesty, and whether they act on those feelings or not, the cards can't guarantee. Because at the end of the day, free will always exists. But energetically, there is movement. The Wheel of Fortune and the Ace of Wands together tells me that the story isn't frozen in time. Things are changing, healing is happening, and new perspectives are growing. I feel like the biggest message Spirit wants you to remember is this. Do not place your life on hold waiting for somebody else's next move. The Hidden Garden reminds you that your own growth is magnetic, and sometimes when we stop chasing the answers and start investing in ourselves, everything begins to unfold naturally. Whether this person returns or not, you're entering a season of renewal. And if they do come back, they're unlikely to be the same person who walked away. Because healing has changed them, just as it's changing you. So thank you so much for joining me today in this reading. And if this message resonated with you, trust that you were meant to hear it exactly at the right time. Remember, tarot offers guidance, not guarantees, and your own intuition is always your most important guide. So take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next reading. And if you don't mind hitting that like and subscribe button, it would really help my little channel grow. But for now, guys, that is all. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will see you soon. Lots of love and light.